Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. And yes, Celtic have lost in the league for the first time in 364 days. Well, this close to making it a full year without a loss in the Premiership. But all good things must come to an end. We had a fantastic run. What was it? 38 games unbeaten in the Scottish Premiership. A slip in the road for Celtic. And I think the overriding feeling for me today is let's try our best not to be reactionary in this video. Let's try our best not to get too carried away, because I think a lot of people are getting too carried away. Listen, these things happen. You can't win every week. And it is, of course, it's disappointing. We're going to talk about that in the entirety of the 90 minutes and why it was a letdown today for Celtic. But I think that we need to do our best to sit down and try and look at things level-headed and try and look for the positives heading forward. It's not like Celtic are in bad form. As I said, slip in the road. These things happen. And I know it was a particularly negative match reaction to Shakhtar Donetsk on Thursday when I done that video. And a lot of people weren't happy with how negative I was. But I think the difference between that game and this game was, against Shakhtar, we should have won. We should have been the team walking away with 3 points. We had the chances in the game. We were the better side. Today, it wasn't the same. We weren't in the game. We weren't the better side. We didn't create enough chances, any good chances anyway, quality chances. We didn't find them in the game. So there is problems to dissect. We'll get through all of it. But I'm going to try my best to look at it level-headed. It's a long season. And if you thought that we were going to go through it undefeated, you know, I know we've done it before, but it's a bit naive to suggest it was going to happen again. These things happen, and yeah, we'll talk all about it. Let's do this. Before we go any further with the video, as always, make sure to hit like and subscribe. It might be tough to do that at this moment in time if you're feeling down about the result, and trust me, I am too, but it's much appreciated if you could press any of those 2 buttons. So Celtic today losing at St Mirren Park in a game that we were just never in, well, we couldn't find ourselves, our normal selves anyway, in the game at all. And I think, you know, part of that, you have to give credit to St Mirren. They turned up today, they were resolute, they held their own very well. As soon as they found themselves in a leading position, it made it a more difficult game, as it usually does in these Premiership games. But we were just never there, and it wasn't the same Celtic we're used to. Now, I don't know if you've watched the match review from Thursday's game, or Wednesday's game, sorry, that I done on the Thursday. But I said something in that video that I feel I stick true to right now, and I think this break has come at the perfect time for Celtic, and we need this break now. If I talk about 3 things we learned, there's one for me. I just think we really needed this, and I thought we'd go into St Mirren today and win. There's no excuses for not winning the game. We weren't good enough. But I really do think that, you know, this break was probably needed for Celtic. We just need a bit of time to gather ourselves and get back to our best. We've been playing a lot of football. These Champions League games have been flying in midweek thick and fast. And you think about it from, you know, the football we've been playing before the Champions League group stage, it was weekend to weekend. Now it's weekend to midweek, to weekend again, to midweek. It is probably just catching up on us a little bit now, because we've not been playing midweek from before then. So I think we did this break, and that was seen in what we've done today. We just never found a rhythm. We never found a tempo. We couldn't get a real good, you know, we had the ball. We had large shares of possession, but we just couldn't do anything with it. And I think a bit of that probably comes down to the team selection, which we will touch on, but we just didn't look like our normal selves. And it was like we were gasping for, you know, something to change in the game. And even through the substitutions and even through St Mirren changing up a little bit, we just couldn't find it. And it was just an off day for Celtic, and these things sort of happen. So I urge the people who think that, you know, this is the end of days and Celtic are finished, I urge you all to rethink. You know, this was going to happen. Inevitably, Celtic were going to lose a game. I'd rather it wasn't today. I'd rather it didn't happen at all, but it was going to happen. It's football. You don't win every single week as much as you want to. So I urge you, if you are thinking that it is the end of the world, calm down. Calm down a little bit. We've still got a lot to smile about. We're still in a really good position. We're 2 points clear at the top of the table. And I'm more than certain that we will be back to our best when we return from the international break. But let's talk about more of what went wrong today. The team selection was obviously the first big thing that a lot of people were talking about. But I want to make a very valid point, a point that I feel is valid. It's an opinion, so you don't need to agree. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. But, you know, a lot of people were unhappy with the team that went out today. A lot of people were upset with the amount of changes. 6 changes Ange made to the starting side today. Obviously, we've seen Moy come in. We've seen Turnbull come in. We've seen Ralston, Welsh. And we've seen Abada return to the starting line. We've seen a lot of changes, is what I'm saying. But all season, Celtic fans, including myself, have been yapping on about how good our depth is and how good it is when we change it up anyway. We don't need to worry about changing it. I feel like we are now suddenly, because of one result today, resulting to saying that we shouldn't be changing. And I'm not saying that anybody's right or wrong in that. That's not my point. But I think we've got to be, you've got to try and stick to one side of the opinion. It's either really good that we've got a squad with that depth and we do change it up from time to time, or you say we shouldn't change at all. So I think you've got to try and stick to one side of that. Listen, I do think that the team selection probably did cost us a little bit today, but Ange has told us for weeks that rotation will come. And just told us that people will get their starting opportunities. Like we've seen Haksabanovic get one on Wednesday, like we see other players get one today. We knew rotation was going to come, and probably in the manager's head, this was probably the kind of perfect time to do it. We're off the back of a game in Europe where we probably got a disappointing result. The morale might not quite be the same, but we've also got a break coming up, and it's maybe time to give minutes into the legs of those who haven't had it. But one thing I will say is, in amongst all of those changes, I feel like Celtic did lose a lot today, especially in the middle of the park. Now, people will be quick to jump out and talk about the defensive performances of a couple of players who came into the team today, but I think in the middle of the park, we were strangled for so much of our usual creativity. I like Aaron Moy, I do, and I like David Turnbull, two great players, but we didn't have the same creative flow to our side today than what we have when Matt O'Reilly starts the game and when Reo Hatate starts the game. And I think that was evident from the very start, from the very get-go of this afternoon's game. I just feel like we didn't have that same energy or pace that we normally have when we drive through the midfield. Of course, McGregor carries on in his role. He does what he does, and defensively and offensively today gave it his all. But I think ahead of him, those two, they didn't quite click in the same way that we see Hatate and O'Reilly normally do. And of course, Hatate came on at half-time. O'Reilly came on very late in the game. I just feel like it was a struggle for them to get into the game at that point when we were already 1-0 down. I mean, in O'Reilly's case, we were 2-0 down, I think. So I think it was hard for them to find that same rhythm because the way that St Mirren were set up at that point made it really, really difficult to get the best out of their game. And I feel like we just lost a lot of what they normally bring us because they weren't starting. And that's not to say that Moy and Turnbull shouldn't be starting games. That's absolutely not what I'm saying. But I feel like maybe with it being the first time they've played together, started together, and obviously Moy's first start in general, I think, could be wrong, but I'm sure it was Moy's first start. You know, with that, maybe it just didn't fall into place the way that they kind of were hoping it would. It's a lesson, but these guys, they need the minutes, and Ange was looking at it in the right, for all the right reasons. It just didn't pay off. Defensively as well, you know, Ralston didn't have a great game today. Welsh, a very poor game today. You know, I think that it was just overall a bad day in the office, and we just couldn't get into our flow. Because you've seen that from the start. It wasn't like as the game got on, we got worse. We weren't in it from the start. We didn't deserve a win. And that's what I mean with the difference between this afternoon and Wednesday night. Wednesday night, I felt hard done by and I felt negative because we should have won the game. St Mirren were more than deserving of their 3 points today. They deserved the win. They were the better side. Celtic just weren't in it. We didn't create any clear-cut opportunities. Any opportunities that were worth shouting about, maybe a couple towards the end, but we just couldn't find it. We couldn't find it at all. And the rotation will take the brunt of it, and maybe rightfully so, but I think it's a tough one because the manager looked at it and for all the right reasons to change it up the way he did. I don't know if it's just down to the way that St Mirren played defensively, but throughout the first half you could see a lot of issues with us trying to do what we've done best, and it felt very 2020-ish. You know, the COVID season, we'll go back to there. I felt that, you know, the way we were lumping balls into the box and no one was there for the end of it. I just feel like it was a proper head fart of a day for the majority of the team. It was like they were almost just wanting to see out this section of the season and get into the break, which, you know, isn't an excuse. You know, we need to do better than that, and I think the manager will drill that into them in the changing rooms and in training. You know, the players will come back from international breaks. We sorely missed a couple of players today, I think. Cameron Carter-Vickers being the standout. We sorely missed him. We needed his defensive presence. We couldn't deal with balls in the air. And, you know, Jens didn't have the greatest game in the world. I thought there was bits who looked decent, okay. But it shows how good the partnership of Cameron Carter-Vickers and Starfelt actually is when you miss them on a day like this. Because I feel like we would have dealt with things much better. And that's another reason it felt very 2020-ish. How did St Mirren get their 2 goals today? They got them by putting balls into the box, scoring headers, and we couldn't deal with them. Very poor in the first one. I think Moy looked, from my angle anyway, from my view of watching it, now I cast my mind back, it looked as though Moy let his man escape free, and he's just standing there in the area, ready to head at the back of the net. And then the second one's just shambolic all round, and Joe Hart should probably do better for the two of them as well. But when you're leaving men in you know, wide open space with the time and the time to think and direct these headers, because both of them are really good headers. They had power behind them, they had pace behind them. It's going to be difficult for Hart to save them. But when you give them those opportunities to see the ball come in, judge it with no pressure around you, it really does make it just difficult to keep them out the back of the net. And we didn't pressure them at all today. I thought that was off as well, just like it was a little bit against Shakhtar. So this is why we need to take the time now to get back to the basics, do what Ange does best with his side and his tactics, bring it back, implement it in a way that wins us games again, and we'll be fine. But, first and second half are very similar in that sense, I thought. Just that, we were just very lackadaisical, we were too pedestrian in everything we were doing. There wasn't enough aggression in our defensive game, and there wasn't enough sort of push in our attacking game. We couldn't find that same energy that we normally possess. And it just let St Mirren get a hold of us and kind of find the opportunities they needed, because they didn't make a lot, but when they did, they took them. And I think that a big part of that was maybe losing that side of the press and the aggression in our game. This is why I'm talking, I said at the top of the video, I want to avoid overreactions. I want to avoid the reactionary comments that most people have after these games. I've seen a lot of players getting slated on social media, and rightfully so. It's poor performances today, and you can acknowledge that, of course. You need to give criticism where it's due. But there's a lot of people saying that players don't deserve to be in the team again, and blah, blah, blah. Listen, one slip in the road, 364 days in the league without a loss. It's a tremendous record for us, and we should be proud of it. And the fans who were there showed their appreciation for the team today. And we should all be like that. Everybody, whether you're present at the game or not, we should all be encouraging and all be supportive of what this team has been bringing us so far this season. We will absolutely get back to our best. And we might not have seen a lot of positives in that from today's game, but we know it's there. And, we've just got to take these in the chin and move on from it, because the last thing we can do is sit and wallow in despair, and then that carries on to the next game. The players won't allow that to happen. The manager won't let that to happen. So we certainly shouldn't ourselves as fans let that to happen. That's one of the main things. But nah, the changes in the second half I thought were the right ones. I said at half-time I wanted to see Hatate, Giacomakis, Haksabanovic, and there was a fourth one as well that is slipping in, Jota. I wanted to see those four. Those were the four changes we had to make, and we did make them. We made them 2 at half-time, 2 about 10, 15 minutes later. We still couldn't get into it. So it was problems all round. We'll regroup and we'll carry on and we'll fix ourselves up for the next game. I'm more than certain of that. But a real sore one to take today is we miss an opportunity to keep that 5-point gap at the top of the table. But don't take anything off them, because they're rotten at the moment. He's got spanked 4-0 off us last week. So just remind them of that. 2 weeks ago, no last week. Anyway, right, that's going to do it from this one, because I've actually left this quite late to record, and the uploading and editing is going to take a while. So it'll be a late one up tonight. I'll be back on Tuesday, back home. So if there's not a video tomorrow, there'll be a video on Tuesday with me back in the gaff. It's going to be a tough couple of weeks, of course, with the international break coming up. It's a blessing and a curse. As I said, I think Celtic need this break, but then I hate the breaks with a passion. Can't be arsed watching Scotland. Anyway, like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. That's going to do it for me today, and yes, I'll see you all next time.